He was taken as punishment. He was the most feared warrior of his people. What no one expected was what happened next. Thank you so much for watching and for all your comments. Let me know at the end if you liked the story, and where you're watching from and why you're following this. The Texas sun beat mercilessly upon the small frontier settlement of Cedar Ridge in the summer of 1867. The air shimmered with heat as 23-year-old Catherine Morrison wiped the sweat from her brow, her golden hair plastered against her neck beneath her cotton bonnet. She stood beside the wooden water barrel outside the general store, her blue eyes scanning the dusty main street where a handful of weathered buildings stood against the vast emptiness of the plains. Catherine had arrived in Cedar Ridge only 3 months prior, traveling from Philadelphia after her parents' death from typhoid fever. With no family remaining in the East, she had accepted a position as schoolteacher in this remote settlement, hoping to build a new life on the frontier. The townspeople had welcomed her warmly, though many wondered why such a beautiful young woman would venture so far into dangerous territory alone. "Miss Morrison, you best get inside," called out Thomas Wheeler, the store owner, his face lined with worry. "Ranger just rode in saying there's been Comanche activity north of here. They're advising everyone to stay close to town." Catherine nodded, but before she could respond, the thundering of hooves filled the air. Within moments, a war party of 20 Comanche warriors swept into the main street, their horses kicking up clouds of dust. The settlers scrambled for cover, but the attack was swift and devastating. Catherine stood frozen as chaos erupted around her, the crack of gunfire mixing with war cries and screams. A powerful hand seized her arm, yanking her backward. She looked up to see a Comanche warrior astride a magnificent black stallion. He was tall and powerfully built, his bronzed skin gleaming with perspiration, his long dark hair adorned with eagle feathers. His face was striking, with high cheekbones and intense dark eyes that seemed to pierce straight through her. Before Catherine could scream, he pulled her onto his horse with effortless strength, and they were racing away from the burning settlement. The warrior's name was Kana, which meant swift in his language. At 28 years old, he was already a legend among the Comanche people, renowned as their most fearsome warrior. He had counted more coups than men twice his age, and his name was whispered with reverence by his people and terror by his enemies. His reputation as a fighter was matched only by his reputation for being cold and merciless, a man who showed no weakness and expected none in others. As they rode hard across the prairie, Catherine's mind reeled with terror. She had heard the stories, the horrifying tales of what happened to captive women. She struggled against Kohana's iron grip, but he held her firmly, his powerful arm wrapped around her waist as his horse galloped tirelessly across the endless grassland. Hours passed before they finally reached the Comanche encampment, a collection of buffalo-hide teepees scattered along a river valley. The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. As Kana dismounted and pulled Catherine down from the horse, she stumbled, her legs weak from the long ride. He steadied her with surprising gentleness, though his expression remained impassive. The camp stirred with activity as warriors returned with horses, supplies, and other captives. Catherine was led through the camp, aware of the many eyes watching her. Women paused in their work to stare, children pointed, and warriors assessed her with calculating gazes. She held her head high despite her fear, refusing to show weakness. They stopped before the largest teepee, where an elderly chief emerged. This was Chief Sakima, leader of this Comanche band, a man whose weathered face bore the marks of countless battles and harsh winters. His eyes were sharp and intelligent as they settled on Catherine, then moved to Kana. "Another captive, Kana?" the chief asked in the Comanche language, which Catherine could not understand. "What do you intend to do with this white woman?" Kohana's jaw tightened. "She is my prize from the raid, great chief. I claim her as mine." Sakima studied them both for a long moment. "You have taken many captives over the years, yet you have never kept one for yourself. Why this woman?" "That is my concern," Kohana replied, his voice cold and measured. The chief nodded slowly. "Very well. She is yours to do with as you wish. But remember, Kohana, that even the strongest warrior must one day face what lies within his own heart." As Kohana led Catherine away to his own teepee on the outskirts of the camp, she finally found her voice. "Please, I have done nothing to you or your people. Let me go, I beg you." Kohana stopped and turned to face her, his dark eyes meeting hers. For a moment, something flickered in their depths, something she could not quite identify. Then his expression hardened once more. "You are Comanche now," he said in halting English, his accent thick but understandable. "You will learn our ways. You will obey. If you try to escape, you will be punished. If you cause trouble, you will be given to the other warriors as their slave. Do you understand?" Catherine felt tears streaming down her cheeks, but she forced herself to nod. "I understand." "Good," Kohana said, then gestured toward his teepee. "Inside. There is water and food. Rest tonight. Tomorrow you begin learning." As Catherine ducked into the teepee, she found it surprisingly spacious and well-organized. Buffalo robes lay neatly arranged for sleeping. Weapons hung carefully on the support poles, and a small fire pit occupied the center. She sank down onto one of the robes, hugging her knees to her chest, as the full weight of her situation crashed over her. Outside, Kohana stood in the gathering darkness, his arms crossed over his broad chest. His closest friend and fellow warrior, Matoska, approached him, concern etched on his face. "Why did you take the white woman, brother?" Matoska asked quietly. "You have never shown interest in captives before. Many will question this." Kohana was silent for a long moment, his gaze fixed on the stars beginning to appear in the darkening sky. "When I saw her standing there in that settlement, something inside me shifted. I cannot explain it, Matoska. It was as though the Great Spirit himself commanded me to take her, to protect her from the others who would have used her cruelly." Matoska placed a hand on his friend's shoulder. "The path you have chosen will not be easy. The elders will watch closely. Some will say you are becoming weak, that a woman has softened the great Kohana." "Let them say what they will," Kohana replied, his voice carrying an edge of steel. "I have proven myself 1,000 times over. No one questions my strength or my loyalty to our people. Perhaps not your strength, brother," Matoska said gently, "but they may question your judgment. A white woman in your teepee, in these times when our people are being pushed further from our lands with each passing season. Some will see it as betrayal." Kohana turned to face his friend, his expression fierce. "She is my responsibility now. I will protect her as I would protect any member of this tribe. That is all anyone needs to know." As Matoska walked away, Kohana returned his gaze to his teepee, where a soft glow from the fire illuminated the hide walls. Inside, Catherine Morrison sat alone, frightened and far from everything she had ever known. And though Kohana would never admit it, even to himself, something about her had stirred feelings he had long ago buried beneath the hardened exterior of a warrior. He had taken her to save her from a worse fate, but in doing so, he had bound their destinies together in ways neither of them could yet imagine. The night deepened, and across the camp preparations began for the ceremonies that would follow the successful raid. Tomorrow would bring new challenges for both Catherine and Kohana, as they navigated the dangerous waters of two worlds colliding, and the unexpected stirrings of something neither had anticipated in the midst of such violence and upheaval. The first rays of dawn filtered through the smoke hole at the top of the teepee, waking Catherine from a fitful sleep. Her body ached from the hard ride and the unfamiliar sleeping arrangement on the buffalo robes. For a brief, merciful moment, she forgot where she was. Then reality crashed back, and she sat up quickly, her heart pounding. Kohana was already awake, sitting cross-legged near the entrance, sharpening a hunting knife with smooth, practiced strokes. He glanced at her briefly, his expression unreadable, then returned his attention to his work. The morning light illuminated his powerful frame, the muscles of his bare chest and arms defined and scarred from countless battles. Despite her fear, Catherine could not deny that he was remarkably handsome, though she immediately chastised herself for such thoughts. "You will come with me," Kohana said, standing in one fluid motion. "There is much you must learn if you are to survive here." Catherine rose on shaky legs, smoothing her torn and dusty dress as best she could. "Where are we going?" "To the river. You will wash. Then Naomi will teach you the ways of our women." The name caught Catherine's attention. "Naomi? That is not a Comanche name." Kohana's jaw tightened slightly. "She was taken from a settlement 5 winters ago. Now she is one of us, married to a warrior named Takota. She will help you understand what is expected." As they walked through the camp, Catherine noticed the curious and often hostile stares from the Comanche people. Some women whispered among themselves, their eyes hard as they watched her pass. Children ran alongside them for a few moments before their mothers called them back sharply. The warriors assessed her with calculating gazes that made her skin crawl. At the river, Kana pointed to a secluded bend where several women were already gathering water and washing clothes. Go. Naomi is the one with the red shawl. She will provide you with proper clothing. Catherine hesitated, looking at the group of women who had stopped their work to stare at her. Will you not stay? Something flickered in Kana's dark eyes, an emotion Catherine could not quite identify. I have duties to attend to. You will be safe with the women. Naomi speaks English. She will explain everything you need to know. As Kana walked away, his broad shoulders straight and his stride confident, Catherine approached the group of women with trepidation. A slender woman in her early 30s, with light brown hair braided in the Comanche style, and wearing a buckskin dress adorned with intricate beadwork, stepped forward. The red shawl around her shoulders marked her as Naomi. You must be Catherine, Naomi said in English, her accent carrying a slight southern lilt beneath the Comanche inflections. Kana sent word that I should help you. Come, let us walk a bit away from the others so we can speak freely. Once they were out of earshot, Naomi's expression softened with sympathy. I know you are frightened. I was too when I first arrived. But I will tell you truly, Catherine, you are fortunate that Kana claimed you. He is a hard man, but he is also honorable. Other warriors would have treated you far worse. Catherine felt tears threatening again but forced them back. How can you speak of fortune when we are prisoners? How can you have accepted this life? Naomi sighed, settling onto a smooth rock by the river's edge and gesturing for Catherine to sit beside her. At first, I fought constantly. I tried to escape 3 times. Each time I was brought back and punished. But my captor, Dakota, was patient with me. Over time, I came to understand that my old life was gone, that I could either choose to be miserable and resistant, or I could adapt and find meaning in this new existence. I chose to live, Catherine, and eventually, I chose to love. Dakota is my husband now in every sense, and I am content. Catherine shook her head in disbelief. I cannot imagine ever accepting such a fate. I had a life, a purpose. I was a teacher. I had dreams of my own. Those dreams are not necessarily gone, Naomi said gently. They will simply take different forms. But I must warn you, Catherine, the path ahead will not be easy. Many in this tribe resent Kana for taking you. They see it as a sign of weakness in their greatest warrior. There are those who would harm you to shame him, to prove that he has lost his edge. You must be vigilant, and you must learn quickly. Over the next hour, Naomi provided Catherine with a buckskin dress similar to her own, and showed her how to wear it properly. She explained the basic structure of the tribe, the roles of men and women, and the unwritten rules that govern daily life. As they talked, Catherine found herself watching Kana in the distance, where he was training younger warriors in combat techniques. His movements were fluid and powerful, a testament to years of honing his skills. Even from afar, his presence commanded respect and attention. He watches you too, you know, Naomi said quietly, following Catherine's gaze. When he thinks no one is looking, his eyes find you. I have known Kana for 5 years, and I have never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you. Catherine felt heat rising in her cheeks. That is impossible. He barely speaks to me. He treats me as a burden, nothing more. Naomi smiled knowingly. Kana is a man who has built walls around his heart higher than any fortress. He lost his wife and young son to a cavalry raid 8 years ago. Since then, he has lived only for war and revenge. For him to take a white woman as his captive, to claim you for himself rather than allow others to decide your fate, that speaks of something deeper than he is willing to admit, perhaps even to himself. The revelation struck Catherine like a physical blow. He lost his family? To my people? Yes. That is why many are shocked by his actions. Some warriors whispered last night that perhaps the great Kana seeks to replace what was taken from him. But I do not believe that is the whole truth. I think there is something about you specifically that called to him, though he would die before admitting such weakness. As the days passed, Catherine settled into an uneasy routine. She learned to prepare food in the Comanche way, to tan hides, to gather roots and berries. The work was exhausting, and her hands, once soft from her life as a teacher, became calloused and rough. Some of the women remained cold and hostile, but others, seeing her genuine effort to learn and adapt, gradually warmed to her presence. Kana remained distant, speaking to her only when necessary, his words clipped and emotionless. Yet Catherine began to notice small things. The way he always ensured she had the best portions of meat during meals. How he positioned his teepee in a location that was safest from potential attacks. The manner in which he would appear seemingly from nowhere whenever other warriors lingered too long near her. His silent presence enough to send them away. One evening, 2 weeks after her capture, Catherine was returning from the river with water when 3 young warriors blocked her path. They spoke in rapid Comanche, their intentions clear even without understanding their words. One reached out to grab her arm, a cruel smile on his face. Before Catherine could react, Kana appeared like a storm, his hand clamping down on the young warrior's wrist with crushing force. The confrontation that followed was swift and brutal. Kana spoke in a voice that carried across the camp, his words sharp as knife blades. The young warrior tried to argue, tried to assert his own status, but Kana drove him to his knees with a combination of physical prowess and sheer intimidating presence. "She is mine," Kana declared in English, ensuring Catherine understood. "Any man who touches her answers to me. Spread that word throughout this camp and to any other band we encounter. She is under my protection, and I will kill anyone who disrespects that claim." The 3 warriors retreated, humiliated and angry, but unwilling to challenge Kana further. As the gathered crowd dispersed, Catherine stood frozen, the water basket trembling in her hands. Kana turned to her, and for the first time she saw something raw and unguarded in his eyes before he shuttered it away again. "You must be more careful," he said roughly. "Stay close to the teepee after dark. Do not give them opportunities." "Why?" Catherine heard herself ask, her voice barely above a whisper. "Why do you protect me so fiercely when I am nothing to you but a captive? When my people killed your family?" Kana stiffened, his entire body going rigid. For a long moment he said nothing, and Catherine thought she had overstepped terribly. Then he spoke, his voice low and strained with emotion he could no longer fully contain. "Because when I look at you, I see something I thought I had lost forever. Hope, light, a reason to be something more than just a weapon of war. I took you to save you from the others, yes, but also because in that moment when our eyes met in that burning settlement, I felt alive again for the first time in 8 years. And that terrifies me more than any enemy I have ever faced." The confession hung in the air between them, raw and honest and dangerous. Catherine's heart pounded as she gazed up at this fierce warrior, who had shown her such unexpected depths. Without thinking, she reached out and placed her hand on his chest, feeling the rapid beating of his heart beneath her palm. "I was so afraid of you," she whispered. "I still am in some ways. But I am beginning to understand that you are not the monster I imagined. You are a man who has suffered greatly, who has been forced to become hard in order to survive. And perhaps I am beginning to see that even in this terrible situation, there might be something worth discovering between us." Kana covered her hand with his own, his touch surprisingly gentle for such a powerful warrior. "The path forward will not be easy, Catherine. There are many in this tribe who will never accept you, who will always see you as the enemy. And the world beyond this camp grows more dangerous every day. The cavalry pushes us further from our lands, and soon there will be nowhere left for my people to go." The summer heat intensified as August arrived, bringing with it tensions that had been simmering beneath the surface of the Comanche camp. Catherine had been living among the tribe for nearly 2 months, and while she had grown more comfortable with the daily routines and had even earned grudging respect from some of the women for her hard work and willingness to learn, the underlying hostility from certain factions had not diminished. Kana's protection of Catherine had become a source of bitter dispute among the tribal council. One warrior in particular, a fierce and ambitious man named Ahiga, had grown increasingly vocal in his criticism. Ahiga was respected for his fighting prowess and coveted the position of war chief, a role that Kohana currently held through merit and the trust of Chief Sakuma. He saw Kohana's attachment to Catherine as a weakness to exploit. It was on a sweltering afternoon, as Catherine helped Naomi repair a torn teepee cover, that the confrontation finally came to a head. Ahiga approached with several supporters, his face twisted with contempt as he addressed Catherine in broken English. "White woman makes our greatest warrior soft like clay. Before you come, Kohana, think only of our people, of driving away the bluecoats who steal our land. Now he thinks only of protecting enemy woman. You are poison to our tribe." Catherine straightened, meeting Ahiga's hostile glare with as much courage as she could muster. "I did not ask to be brought here. I did not ask for Kohana's protection, but I will not apologize for surviving, nor will I allow you to speak to me as though I am worthless." Naomi grabbed Catherine's arm urgently, whispering, "Do not provoke him. Ahiga is dangerous and has been looking for any excuse to challenge Kohana's authority." But it was too late. Ahiga's hand moved to the knife at his belt, his intentions clear. Before he could draw it, however, Kohana appeared with Mataska at his side. The air crackled with tension as the two warriors faced each other, both radiating barely controlled fury. "You dare threaten what is mine, Ahiga?" Kohana's voice was deceptively quiet, but Catherine had learned to recognize the danger in that tone. "You dare question my loyalty to our people, when I have shed more blood for this tribe than you could in 10 lifetimes? Ahiga spat on the ground. "Your loyalty died the day you brought that white demon into our camp. The spirits are displeased. Our hunting has been poor, our enemies grow bolder. This is because you have allowed your heart to rule your head, because you look at her with the eyes of a man who has forgotten what her kind did to your family." The mention of Kohana's lost wife and son struck deep, and Catherine saw the flash of pain cross his features before rage replaced it. "You know nothing of my heart or my memories. My family's deaths fuel every breath I take, every battle I fight. Catherine is not responsible for the crimes of her people, just as Naomi was not responsible, just as any captive is not responsible for the wars that brought them here." "Then prove it," Ahiga challenged, his voice rising so that the entire camp could hear. "Prove that she means nothing to you. Give her to me, and I will show her what it means to truly serve the Comanche. Or better yet, send her away. Release her back to her people, and show that your judgment has not been clouded by a woman's beauty." Chief Sakuma emerged from his teepee, his weathered face grave as he surveyed the scene. The entire camp had gathered now, forming a circle around the confrontation. The old chief raised his hand for silence. "Enough. This dispute has festered long enough and threatens to divide our people when we must stand united against our true enemies. Ahiga, you challenge Kohana's judgment and accuse him of weakness. Kohana, you defend your right to protect this woman. There is only one way to settle this in the manner of our ancestors. You will face each other in ritual combat. The victor's judgment will be accepted by all, and this matter will be concluded." Catherine felt her blood run cold. "No, this is madness. I will not have men fighting over me as though I am property to be won or lost." Kohana turned to her, and in his eyes she saw a fierce determination mixed with something softer, something that made her heart ache. "This is not just about you, Catherine. This is about my honor, about my right to make decisions for myself without being questioned at every turn. Ahiga has been waiting for this opportunity, and now it has come. I must face him." "But what if you lose?" Catherine whispered, though she could barely imagine such an outcome. "What happens to me then?" "I will not lose," Kohana said with absolute certainty. "I have too much to protect, too much to live for now. You have reminded me of that." The combat was set for the following dawn, giving both warriors time to prepare. That night, as Catherine sat in Kohana's teepee trying to control her fear, he entered and sat across from her, the firelight casting shadows across his strong features. "I need to tell you something," he said quietly. "Something I have never spoken of to anyone, not even Mataska. When my wife and son were killed, I wanted to die. I threw myself into battle after battle, hoping that an enemy's blade or bullet would end my suffering. But I was too skilled, too fast, and death would not take me. So I became what you first saw, a man of stone, feeling nothing, caring for nothing except vengeance against the white invaders. He paused, his dark eyes meeting hers across the flames. Then I saw you in that settlement, standing there so brave despite your fear, and something inside me broke open. I told myself I was saving you from the others, that it was an act of mercy, nothing more. But the truth is that you saved me, Catherine. You reminded me that there is more to life than anger and death. You made me remember what it feels like to want to protect something not out of duty, but out of genuine care. Catherine felt tears streaming down her face. Kohana, I have fought against these feelings for weeks, telling myself it was impossible, that I was betraying everything I knew by caring for you. But I cannot deny it any longer. Somewhere along this journey, I have fallen in love with you. Not because you are my captor or protector, but because I see the man beneath the warrior, the heart beneath the armor you wear. The thought of losing you tomorrow terrifies me beyond words. Kohana moved around the fire with fluid grace, kneeling before her and taking her face gently in his scarred hands. Then let me tell you this truth before I face Ahiga. I love you, Catherine Morrison. I love your courage, your strength, your refusal to be broken by circumstances that would have destroyed a lesser person. I love the way you speak your mind even when you are afraid, the way you have learned our ways while never losing yourself. And I swear to you on the spirits of my ancestors that I will defeat Ahiga tomorrow, and then I will make you my wife in the ways of both our peoples, if you will have me. Catherine leaned into his touch, her heart full to bursting. I will have you, Kohana. In this life and whatever comes after, I choose you. They spent that night holding each other, talking of dreams and possibilities, of the life they might build together if they could survive the challenges ahead. When dawn broke, Catherine accompanied Kohana to the clearing where the combat would take place, her hand clasped tightly in his until the last possible moment. The entire tribe had gathered in a circle, their faces solemn as they witnessed this moment that would determine their future direction. Chief Sakima stood in the center, flanked by the tribal elders. Ahiga entered the circle from the opposite side, his body painted for war, his expression confident and cruel. The rules are simple, Chief Sakima announced. You will fight until one warrior yields or can no longer continue. No weapons except those of your own bodies and the knives you carry. May the spirits guide the worthy to victory. The combat began with explosive violence. Ahiga was larger than Kohana, with a longer reach and brutal strength, but Kohana was faster, more skilled, with years of experience in reading his opponent's movements before they happened. They clashed like summer thunderstorms, their bodies colliding with bone-jarring force as knives flashed in the morning sunlight. Catherine watched in horror as blood began to flow from cuts on both warriors. Ahiga managed to land a vicious slice across Kohana's ribs, drawing a gasp from the crowd. But Kohana did not slow, did not show pain. Instead, he seemed to become more focused, more dangerous. His eyes found Catherine's across the circle, and in that glance, she saw his promise renewed. The fight raged for what felt like hours, but was perhaps only 20 minutes. Both warriors were bleeding, exhausted, their movements becoming slower, but no less determined. Then Kohana saw his opening. Ahiga overextended on a knife thrust, leaving his side exposed for just a fraction of a second. Kohana moved with the speed of a striking snake, disarming Ahiga and bringing his blade to his opponent's throat in one smooth motion. Yield, Kohana commanded, his chest heaving with exertion. I have proven my point. There is no need for your death. Ahiga's face twisted with rage and humiliation, but he had no choice. I yield, he spat, the words clearly bitter on his tongue. Chief Sakima stepped forward, his expression one of approval. The combat is concluded. Kohana has proven his strength and his judgment remains sound. Let no one question his decisions regarding the white woman again. Ahiga, you challenged and you lost. Accept your defeat with honor, or face exile from this tribe. As the crowd dispersed, some disappointed, others relieved, Catherine ran to Kohana, helping him to their teepee where Naomi was already waiting with supplies to tend his wounds. As the older woman cleaned and bandaged his injuries, Kohana never took his eyes from Catherine's face. It is done, he said softly. You are safe now. and we can begin to build our life together. But even as relief flooded through Catherine, she knew that larger challenges loomed on the horizon. 2 days after the combat, scouts brought news that changed everything. A large cavalry force was moving through the region, burning Comanche camps and forcing the tribes onto reservations in Indian territory. Chief Sakima called an emergency council, and for the first time Catherine was invited to attend as Kohana's woman. The debate was heated and painful. Some warriors wanted to fight, to die defending their homeland rather than submit to reservation life. Others, particularly those with families, argued that survival meant accepting the inevitable and trying to preserve their culture and people even in defeat. Kohana listened to all sides before speaking, and when he did, his words carried the weight of hard-won wisdom. I have fought the white soldiers for many years. I have killed many of them, and many of my brothers have fallen to their guns. But I am no longer a young warrior seeking glory in death. I have something to live for now, a future I want to protect. Catherine has shown me that not all white people are our enemies, that there are those among them who can learn to understand and respect our ways. If we go to the reservation, it will be a bitter defeat, but we will survive. Our children will survive. And perhaps one day, our peoples can find a way to coexist with honor. The speech was met with mixed reactions, but coming from Kohana, the tribe's most feared warrior, it carried undeniable authority. Chief Sakima nodded slowly, his ancient eyes reflecting both sadness and acceptance. Kohana speaks wisely. We cannot win this war, not with our current numbers and resources. We will negotiate with the cavalry for safe passage to the reservation in Indian territory. Those who wish to continue fighting may do so, but they do it without the support of this band. We choose survival and the hope of a future, however uncertain. The decision made, the camp began preparations for the long journey. It was during this time of transition that Kohana and Catherine were married, in a ceremony that blended Comanche tradition with acknowledgement of Catherine's own beliefs. Naomi stood as witness alongside Matoska, and even some of the women who had once been hostile to Catherine attended, their attitudes softened by her perseverance and by Kohana's victory over Ahiga. As the tribe prepared to depart their ancestral lands for the last time, Catherine stood with Kohana on a hill overlooking the valley that had been their home. His arm was around her waist, her head resting against his shoulder, and despite all the hardship and uncertainty that lay ahead, they felt a deep sense of peace. "Are you afraid?" Kohana asked, his voice gentle. Catherine considered the question carefully. "I am afraid of what we will find on the reservation, of how difficult life will be, but I am not afraid of facing it with you. We have already overcome so much, survived so much. Whatever comes next, we will face it together." Kohana pulled her closer, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. "When I took you from that settlement, I believed I was saving you. But in truth, you saved me. You gave me back my humanity, my hope, my heart. I was dead inside, Catherine, and you brought me back to life. For that, I will love you until my last breath and beyond." The journey to the reservation took 3 weeks, a difficult trek across harsh terrain under the watchful eyes of cavalry escorts. When they finally arrived at the designated land in Indian territory, it was a fraction of the space they had once roamed freely, and the conditions were far from ideal. But true to their word, Kohana and Catherine faced each challenge together. Catherine used her skills as a teacher to help establish a school for the Comanche children, teaching them to read and write in both English and their native language, ensuring that their culture and stories would not be lost, even as they adapted to a new world. Kohana became a liaison between the tribe and the Indian agents, his command of English and understanding of both cultures making him invaluable in navigating the complex and often unjust reservation system. They built a small house on the edge of the reservation, blending Comanche and white architectural styles, a physical representation of their merged lives. Naomi and Dakota became their closest friends, and together they worked to build a community that honored the past while preparing for the future. 5 years after that fateful raid on Cedar Ridge, Catherine stood in the doorway of their home, watching as Kohana played with their 3-year-old son, a beautiful boy with his father's dark eyes and his mother's golden hair. A daughter slept peacefully in the cradle board on Catherine's back. The life they had built was not easy, and there were still those on both sides who questioned their union. But they had created something precious and real from circumstances that should have destroyed them both. As Kohana looked up and caught her watching, his face broke into a smile that transformed his stern warrior features into something warm and loving. He rose and walked to her, his son riding on his shoulders, laughing with pure joy. "What are you thinking, my heart?" Kohana asked, using the endearment he had given her. Catherine reached up to touch his face, marveling as she always did at the journey that had brought them together. "I am thinking that sometimes the most beautiful things in life come from the most unexpected places. I was brought to you as a captive, seen as punishment by those who wished to break you. But instead, you loved me like no one else ever could. You saw beyond the color of my skin, beyond the history of our peoples, and you chose to love me completely. That is the greatest gift I have ever received." Kohana set their son down gently and pulled Catherine into his arms, careful of the baby on her back. "And you, Catherine, you chose to see beyond the warrior to the man beneath. You could have hated me for taking you, could have fought against the feelings growing between us. Instead, you gave me your heart freely, and in doing so, you gave me back my life. We have built something remarkable here, not just a family, but a bridge between two worlds. Our children will grow up understanding both cultures, loving both peoples, and perhaps they will help heal the wounds that divide us." As the sun set over the reservation, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, Kohana and Catherine stood together, surrounded by their children and the community they had helped build. The road had been long and often painful, filled with challenges that had tested them both to their limits. But they had emerged stronger, their love forged in the fires of adversity into something unbreakable. Catherine had been given to the most feared Comanche warrior, as what some intended to be punishment, a white woman thrust into a world she did not understand. But Kohana had loved her like no one else, seeing in her not an enemy but a kindred spirit, not a captive but a partner, not a burden but a blessing. And in that love they had both found redemption, purpose, and a future filled with hope. Their story would be told for generations, a testament to the power of love, to transcend even the deepest divides and the most painful histories, proving that sometimes the heart knows truths that the mind cannot yet comprehend, and that real love requires courage above all else.